we're accustomed to, in the traditional IT sense, asynchronous replication. This doesn't exist in the cloud native world. So what we've created and have patented and will be going GA with next quarter is the ability to send one single source of truth to multiple clouds, multiple storage environments simultaneously.
Hi, this is your host Apni Bharti and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk here at Kubecon and CloudRecon in Valencia, Spain. And today we have with us once again David Safaii, CEO of Trilio. David, it's great to have you back on the show.
Great to see you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and it's exciting to be able to see each other in person after 2 or 3 years. We have been doing so many Zooms. So I hope this will become a new norm, not that we'll go back, because meeting in person has its own, different vibe altogether. Which brings me to the first question, which is that you are here at KubeCon. Yep. You have been to keynotes, sessions, you have seen the whole, booth area. What kind of energy you have seen? What has been your experience so far?
So if you can hear it from my voice, I've already lost my voice. Excuse me.
Which is a good thing.
I've lost it for a good reason. There is so much excitement here, and we've had so many conversations at our booth. We already hit our goal for the whole conference on day one. That's the level of excitement, the number of people that are here, and the great conversations that have been taking place. So I want to apologize for losing my voice ahead of this conversation.
We have been covering Trilio for years, so I don't want to get into the introduction of Trilio. But what I do want to know is that since you're here, in addition to lead generation, what else are you doing here? Any announcements?
Well, it's actually a big announcement. So at the show, we're showing a technical preview. Actually, it's being unveiled in Microsoft's booth today at 3:30 in the Azure booth, and it's around our continuous restore product. The continuous restore product, we're accustomed to, in the traditional IT sense, asynchronous replication. This doesn't exist in the cloud native world. So what we've created and have patented and will be going GA with next quarter is the ability to send one single source of truth to multiple clouds, multiple storage environments simultaneously. And so you get to pre-position data. And now, so if you think about it this way, I can send at one point in time continuously and have a production cloud in Amazon, a DR cloud in Azure, a test dev cloud in GCP or back on premise, all using one source of truth. And that in itself, and having that continuous replication, regardless of what the underlying infrastructure is massive. And what it does, though, it accelerates RTO from a DR perspective. It gives you test data to work with, because a lot of the pain points in the market around testing is, how do I test with production data? A lot of times people create data. And of course, if you're dealing with compliance or regulatory things, you want to obfuscate that data, which you can do. And then, you have also now the ability to not just pre-position data, but move data as required, which is powerful. So what continuous restore becomes at the end of the day is, while we've talked about multi-cloud, and I think this is a conversation you and I had in the past, I think tomorrow we talk about cross-cloud. And Trilio becomes that fabric, because you may want to have data somewhere and the application somewhere, but I also want to empower you to have it everywhere. And I think that's evolutionary and revolutionary.
Right. Which also let me just, since you mentioned cross-cloud, we talk cross clusters, cross teams, and now so first of all, can you also talk about why, what is the importance? Because it's also, most of the thing that you folks do is based on where the market is heading, where the users are, where the customers are. So talk about the importance of worrying or caring about cross-cluster, cross teams, cross-cloud.
Yeah, it's interesting because it becomes this intersection of a number of roles, a number of responsibilities, and a number of instances where people are in their journey. So, as an example, people early in their journeys may be very DevOps heavy to create the culture around Kubernetes and build their applications and get ready to deploy those applications. And then what we're seeing now is IT ops raising their hands and have the need to provide backup and DR. We're seeing a lot of DR requests, which is interesting. And what go hand in hand with both is the migration capability. So whether you're migrating between clusters, right, or between clouds from non-prod to prod, it's this intersection. And one of the beauties of Trilio is that wherever you may be in this journey, you may have started in one distribution of Kubernetes. You may have a team that's using another distribution of Kubernetes. One of our superpowers is that we are completely agnostic and the most flexible solution. So you may be using upstream, I may be using OpenShift. And you may have a tenant that cares about both of these applications. We give you one pane of glass to manage both, to move both if need be, to migrate both. And it becomes a powerful story.
Excellent. Thanks for taking this question and also explain that. I'll go back to the previous point that you were talking about continuous restore.
Yeah.
And which is being demoed at the Microsoft booth. Can you talk about once again, what are some of the use cases for that led to it or which is driving it?
Yeah. So if you look at the use cases again, driving RTO. Right, when people are asking about disaster recovery and they're adopting public cloud as an example, right, to achieve the RTOs that companies require. Because in some public cloud instances, hyperscalers may provide just cluster recovery. Cluster recovery is not application and data recovery, right? So we give the ability to stage that data and have it as that failover instantaneously. If you think about some of the use cases around test dev, as I mentioned before, but let's also talk about edge cloud. What continuous restore provides is a mesh network for yourself. So now I have the ability to reach out to my edge, curate the data I require, pull it in, and do more with it, right? You may require to compute at the edge. You may require to pull that data in for additional needs. At least, you may have teams now that require that data for different departments. Right. And then now you have that one single layer. So it's again, I can't pound the table harder. We are very excited. We think that continuous restore starts to change the game around data management.
Right. One more thing, is that how much awareness are you seeing of, because people were initially more excited about moving to cloud,
Yeah.
But when you land on the cloud, that's when, day 2 or day 3 or day 10, whatever problem is, which is comes with the loss of data or data protection or, being able to disaster recovery or data recovery. And also you folks have come a long way, all the way from OpenStack days. So you have seen the market, OpenStack, big giant, the cores versus here also it's massive. So talk about how you have seen the market evolve, how, especially in the cloud native Kubernetes space.
Yeah, it's in a really interesting spot now. Because you have a number of people who have been either born in the cloud. You have people that have organizations that have different departments that have different projects and they don't even realize how many instances of public cloud that they may actually have or different hyperscalers that they're actually using. And then we're also seeing, other folks that want to repatriate things back on-prem again. And some of those folks want to manage their costs. What continuous restore can actually do is help you manage those costs. You can now move your application, your data, to any cloud that you want, and scale one cloud down if you so choose to. So it becomes a really interesting thing. So again, people are in this really interesting spot right now where they're trying to standardize perhaps on one distribution. They're trying to understand how many clouds that they're actually working with. They're trying to put policy now and governance in place because now they are moving to production. This show has clearly shown us that. We're seeing the conversation far more mature than ever before. And we want to help, if we can be that guidepost to help people migrate to where they want to be, or if we can be there so that they have that assurance that if things go bump in the night, they can recover.
One more thing is that when we do talk about data protection, data recovery, we do have to talk about the security aspect of it. This year and even last year, even from the federal government, we have been hearing a lot about it. A lot of attacks are happening, and especially with the cloud, even there was a ransomware, if I'm not wrong, in the Azure service as well. It was found. So things, low-hanging fruits are there as that option is growing. So first of all, tell me a bit about how serious is threat in the cloud-native era versus the traditional IT era, and what folks can do to protect themselves.
Yeah, so I'd say that most ransomware attacks are still very much focused on Windows and VM-based environments. But I think where the cloud-native world is today and where it's going, it's become at the forefront of the conversation, not an afterthought. So we're finding a lot of the conversations of people want it to talk about it, to check the box, right? And we've actually heard firsthand of actual ransomware attacks. And because of that, it's become an edict in the company to have backup and disaster recovery in place regardless. And, our approach to this has been adhering to the NIST framework of a zero trust architecture. We allow you to bring your own keys. So we don't want to do the key management whatsoever. We will encrypt from, not at the storage, we'll encrypt from the application all the way down. Multi-factor authentication, immutability of the storage environment. A lot of what the people are announcing now, we announced in the fall, and it's peace of mind. And actually, one of the interesting things is that our point-in-time captures are they're Linux-based formats. They're QCOW2 images. So they allow you to work with any third-party scanners you want to work with. So a lot of security organizations have their best-of-breed tooling that they want to work with. Traditional data protection folks have proprietary schemas. So we've removed that. We want to empower security teams to forensically, because most security attacks already happened without you knowing it, right? 75, 90 days, 100 days earlier. And so we give you the ability to now comb through your backups, check the box, have clean bill of health to get to your best last known state if need be, right? And even from stateless environments, we've had conversations with CISOs who said, look, I know what my intended state was. I'm worried about drift. And what's my runtime state? So with Trilio, you can capture that runtime state, compare your YAMLs, and forensically look to see if anything's changed, right? Because people try to sneak things in, or not even just from a security aspect. People will monkey around with configurations because they can. Like a lot of QA testing is press that button. Why? Because it's there. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what happens. That's how you get to fat finger things and misconfigure things often. So, we think that our approach to security lends itself very well to this world. And now, again, with continuous restore, peace of mind that all your environments are protected. But security is there's a holistic approach. It's a team sport. It's my job, it's your job, it's everyone in the organization to do what they're supposed to be doing from a people, process, and technology perspective. So we will do our part.
All right. Since you brought this you touched on briefly, cultural part was that with, first of all, security is not a product, it's a process. Yep. Second thing is that when you say that security is everybody's problem, the thing that happens is when it becomes everybody's problem, it ends up being nobody's problem. Mm. Because somebody is thinking, hey, somebody is doing, but but the fact is that actually it works in a bit different way. You know, there are processes in place, so no matter what you're doing, you went through that process. So it doesn't matter whether you care about security or not. That process will ensure that you did your bit correctly. So that's what it means by everybody. So can you just go a bit deeper and define how would you explain that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the army, right? Everyone's got a role, or like in the supply chain, you've got a role to further things down the line. From a security aspect, it's everything from managing your passwords correctly. It's as simple as those things, but the process is in place, and but it's not process, but it's also culture. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a team culture to rally around. We're going to do this in a secure manner because problems happen. It's not if, it's kind of when they happen, right? And how do we? It's like a lot of things in life. How are you going to respond to these things? But at least you can put processes in place.
David, once again, thank you so much for joining me today in person and talk about, of course, not only that, but you share some insights which are helpful to a lot of folks there. So thanks for sharing those insights. And as usual, I would love to have you back on the show, whether in person or remote, doesn't matter, but it's incredible to talk to you again. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always good to chat with you. And hopefully I'll have my voice next time. But like I said, this was a good thing. It's been a great show. So thank you.